Well, and it was interesting when the Big Ten first started. It's the Midwest and definitely new programs for the most part. Wisconsin had a program since the 70s, the early 70s, um, but most of the rest of the Big Ten added in the late 90s. Um, and so we were the new kids on the block, and there was a little bit of shade thrown from the Ivies and from the West Coast elite, and the Big Ten teams had to earn everything they got, and they traveled all over the country back and forth year after year to be able to race those top crews everywhere and prove that they were in fact worthy of competing at the highest level. And so that was sort of a win for the Big Ten invite to have everybody from the country want to come and race the Big Ten teams. And it was a win-win for everybody.
And I think one of the strengths of the conference as well, just from some of the geographic trends as it stands now, there is a big component of these athletes' training block of indoor training.
Yes.
So when I was talking about water time, the opposite of that, when you're not able to get on the water, there's a lot of training that happens on the indoor rowing machines, or maybe some cross training with biking and swimming. You've got constant weight training and circuits. There's a grueling regimen that these athletes subscribe to when they don't have water time. And so I think if I was an outsider looking in, it's really interesting. A lot of the other teams, they kind of don't know what they're going to get out of the Big Ten because they know that the athletes are incredibly strong, really, really dogged spirits. And they know they've put in a lot of hard miles on these indoor training things. So they know that the erg times, like your 2Ks on the rowing machine, is kind of like your business card in rowing. It's kind of showing where do you kind of stack up against other people. And there's traditionally a lot of really strong scores within this conference. And then applying that to the water, because you got to be able to apply that power to the blade, to the handle with others. And so in the larger context of national championships, you never know. You know that the Big Ten Conference is gonna maybe click a little later, but when they do, they're gonna be blazing.
Look out.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's something about that shared experience in the erg room.
Yeah.
Morning after morning, afternoon after afternoon, where it's really amazingly hard, grueling work with none of the beauty of actually being in the boat. And while that experience on the water is so critical, that grit and that team, just that team vibe that you develop in the erg room, I think is worth way more than it gets credit for.
Absolutely. The blood, sweat, and tears shared across all of the minutes, the days, the months, the years. Make strong bonds. A lot of the athletes here will stay in touch with each other and either go and do alumni races. They'll meet up at regattas like this to cheer on their home program. So we have a lot of alumni here today from the various schools, kind of looking back at their times, kind of reminiscing with maybe some good race finishes, but here to cheer on the current student athlete experience. So cool network of women coming together here at the Big Ten Championships in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Next event up, slated to start in a few minutes, is the first varsity 4. So they are up getting aligned here at the starting blocks. Our lane assignments for this race will be Minnesota in lane 1 closest to shore, Iowa in lane 2, lane 3 Indiana, 4 lane Michigan.
They're off already.
Oh, and they are off right on time. Rounding out this field, we got Rutgers lane 5, lane 6, Ohio State, Michigan State in lane 7, Wisconsin over there in lane 8. First seed into this race, it was Michigan rowing a shell called the Vengeance, which I think is quite a great, severe name for such a competitive boat. Second seed is Rutgers in lane 5. Third seed is Indiana on the far side of Michigan in lane 3.
Another great start here. Hard to tell with just the glare. I think it's lane 6.
Early bump out then by Ohio State.
Yep. Look at those top 3 right there.
Ohio State, Rutgers, and Michigan.
Yep. Lanes 4, 5, and 6. Really getting out there together and fast, using each other. That competitive edge here. It looks like Michigan has a slight lead coming into that buoy line.
And this is the first of the boat categories that counts for the NCAA total. So all the boats count for the Big 10 championship, but this is the first race that determines who is going to get that automatic qualifier.
Yeah, Michigan is pulled out into the lead, a clear lead, but Ohio State's right there. They move slightly ahead of Rutgers. And then you have Indiana and Iowa down here, lanes 2 and 3. They seem to be stroke for stroke. Indiana has just a slight lead on Iowa, and now they're moving into that Rutgers boat. Those two crews working off of each other is bringing them in contact with Rutgers. Michigan still in the lead. Then it's Ohio State, then Rutgers. Again, Indiana's moving up on Rutgers and bringing Iowa along with them. And in the far lanes there in 7 and 8, you've got Wisconsin in the lead over Michigan State right now. Ohio State making a push here. Rutgers making a counter move and trying to keep Indiana away from them. Indiana's holding strong, and Iowa is staying in contact with Indiana.
We see some different rigging happening within these fours. So within sweep rowing, so the discipline that we see here at the collegiate rowing level for women, we have sweep rowing, 2 hands on 1 oar, similar to sweeping a broom. So you would assume you've got port and starboard, left and right side of the boat. You want to have that evenly distributed. Obviously, you need even numbers of those ports and starboards, but it's not always just every other all the way. We see a couple of bucket rigs happening here. So Michigan's got a bucket rig within the middle of the boat, as does Rutgers next to them. Sometimes that's chosen because of experience, its power, how things are applied. Their power is applied through the stroke. So that's kind of one of the reasons why you may see a little bit of that change up where you see the 2 port rowers right next to each other in both of those crews.
I'll tell you what, Ohio State, Michigan had more on them, and Ohio State is moving up on Michigan. Rutgers has made almost open water on Indiana, and Indiana seems to have open water on Iowa from our camera angle. Again, kudos to Ohio State by holding strong through here. As Bibi was mentioning, just like the power per stroke that they have is impressive, and they're taking advantage of that. That is it seems to be, their superpower, and they're taking advantage by doing that and rowing. Now, Michigan, they're great racers. They're like, we're not going to let you come up here. So you can see them trying to counter that move. Ohio State has created open water on Rutgers, and Indiana is now closing the gap slightly on Rutgers from what they lost earlier.
Mm-hmm.
If you see the angle of the buoy lines, I would say that Michigan's stroke seat is on the bow ball of Ohio State from looking at the buoy line there, the angle.
And I think the stroke seat kind of took a gander off to her left-hand side to double check exactly what you're pointing out, that maybe that bow ball is a little too close for her.
I know. Look at the stroke seat of Michigan. She is getting after it. Great acceleration. Mm-hmm. She's taking her crew and leading them towards that finish line.
She's setting an impulse for the rest of the athletes to follow. So often in the boat, some people are like, oh, well, how do you know what to do? You follow the woman in front, and the woman in front who doesn't have anyone else to follow, she is setting the pace. She's the metronome for the rhythm of this crew. So she's kind of just pushing through those footboards. You can literally feel that energy through the shell.
Yep. We're coming in the last 500. Yeah, they can feel her energy. And then Ohio State, they can feel the energy of each other as they're moving into the last 500, okay? And you've got Rutgers clearly in third, and Indiana, we just see their bow ball on our screen, but if you look out on the water, you can see them trying to move up, trying to get back in contact with Rutgers. Every single race matters. Michigan has pulled, it looks like, a little bit of open water on Ohio State.
And it's hard. We are looking at the top 4 team leaders in this team championship points. So each one of these boats will stack up to push either one of their programs ahead of the other.
Yep. And Ohio State's holding it. Michigan made a move. Like I said, that stroke seat in the 4 has tremendous acceleration, and her bow 3 buddies have nothing but to follow her. Basically, she's got that, and she is
She's
rowing
hungry.
those boats away. You can feel it, you can see it. It's very impressive. Indiana's trying to move up on Rutgers, similar to the last situation we had here. Rutgers is trying to move up on Ohio State. Michigan's still in the lead from our angle on the screen here. Another good one. Got internal races here. Iowa's trying to stay in the lead of Michigan State and Wisconsin. You got Michigan in the lead. Ohio State. Michigan looks to finish here. It goes Michigan, Ohio State, Rutgers, Indiana, and the Hawkeyes are taking a big move here to come in front of Wisconsin. That's it. They're making a great move. And then it's Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan State, and Minnesota.
Boy, that was good racing.
Again, it's just you just love to see the rowers with that response to some of the moves. You can see it, the intensity.
You see it in the body language. Yeah, kudos on that stroke seat that you were calling out. That she's just killing it there. Madison Scott, there of that Michigan first varsity 4. You could see she was hungry for it.
Yeah, I want to put her in my boat. Yeah, really great racing, and again, you see it. We're lucky to have these TV screens right in front of us, and you can see crews holding off other crews and making moves once again here in the racing, which again speaks to their composure. I think that it'll be fun to see again what happens here on the point spread, but some phenomenal racing and some guts there shown on this racing this morning.
And I think it's really interesting to see, all of these athletes are more and more proficient as we're getting through the race program. And, to the untrained eye, it does look like, oh, everyone's just moving up and down the slide. But when you look at it and you really hone in on the individual boats and you can see how they're coming together, their proportion of leg drive to swing to recovery time, each one's got a slightly different tone to it. And then within that, you've got the individual, the individual touches. So just like you're saying, you could see the stroke seat wanted to go, probably exactly why she's in that seat, to be able to lead this group of 5 women first place across the line here in the varsity 4s. That speaks to that individual nature of what do you contribute to your boat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the fun part as you get into the smaller boats that becomes louder. And then we'll start to see the next 2 events in the second varsity 8s and the first varsity 8s, more of that collective spirit. But great job on the part of this Michigan crew that we're looking at here, who had a fantastic race down the course here. So looking again now at this change up in the team points. Just like we were saying, I said look out for the Ohio State Rutgers battle going back and forth. So Ohio State did such a great job in that race. They've kind of bumped themselves right ahead of Rutgers, but that might change as we go on with the next 2 events.
Yeah, we've got the 8s coming up. That's always fun to see the energy when you got 8 people in a boat, and they know what's on the line here, and the bottom line is they're in a race and they want to win it.
But I'm curious also with Indiana. I'm looking ahead here. The second varsity 8 for Indiana was seeded 3rd in this upcoming race, which may have some interest